We'll be looking into the skewness and kurtosis, and we will not be looking into the technicality of skewness and kurtosis in terms of how to calculate. We'll be looking into more of the visual presentation on what information the coefficient of skewness and kurtosis provides, yeah, and how we can work on that particular information. So let's move on. When we talk about skewness, skewness is actually a measure of the data symmetry. If you look into this diagram, it's a bell-shaped diagram where you can see the data is centered at the mean, where you can see the portion on the left-hand side and also on the right-hand side is the same. And if we calculate the coefficient of skewness, it will equal to 0. So the 0 indicates that the data set is perfectly symmetric, or as how we always say, it's normal distribution. Now, there are also some other shapes that we have to look into. Yeah, we look into positive skewness. Now, if you look into positive skewness, you can see that the right-hand tail is much more longer. So you can see the data concentration or the peak of the data is on the left-hand side. We also have negative skewness, where we can see that the left-hand side tail is much more longer, and we can see that the data is centered, or the peak of the data is on the right-hand side. And if you want to look into the coefficient of skewness, if the coefficient is less than 0.5, we say comparatively it's symmetry. If the coefficient is greater than 0.5 and lesser than 1, we say that's moderate skewness. And if the coefficient is greater than 1, we say there is high degree of skewness. Now let's look into an example. Yeah, let's say we're looking into housing prices, and we look into house prices in Malaysia. Let's say the range of houses is between 400k to 900k, and the average house price is 350. So you can see, if you look into this diagram here, 350 is the average. Now if we look into this diagram, we know that the skewness is negative. Yeah, it's negatively skewed. So from this diagram, we can see that most of the people in Malaysia are buying houses which the price is beyond the average price. Yeah, because you can see that the peak is over here. Yeah, so if it's the average is 350, so most of the people are buying houses, yeah, prices beyond the average price. Now, why this incident is happening, we can't say. We are just interpreting the data. If we want to know why people are buying houses beyond the average price, then we need to do some further investigation. Is that we can calculate the coefficient of skewness and the coefficient of kurtosis using Microsoft Excel, and I've given you the formulas over here. Yeah, the formula to be keyed into Microsoft Excel in order for you to calculate the skewness and kurtosis. Yeah, so next we move on to Microsoft Excel to calculate the coefficients. So let's calculate the coefficient of skewness and kurtosis. So we start with skewness first. Equal sign, SK, yeah, okay, the moment you type skew is there. We're going to calculate the skewness for the sales data. Yeah, so we can select the range here, click enter. So we have managed to get the skewness is negative 1.25. So what does that negative sign says? The negative sign says that the tail is much more longer on the negative side. So on the left hand side. So it means that, okay, it's negatively skewed. And if you see, the data is 1.2, yeah, so 1.2, it means that we can say there is high level of skewness. Yeah, and let's see the data. Okay, if you look into the mean is 175. So we can see that, okay, the concentration or the peakness of data is beyond 175. Yeah, so you can see from the sales data that majority, okay, most of the sales value tends to be greater than 175. Yeah, so that's why the data peakness, okay, is beyond 175, which is on the right hand side. Now let's calculate for kurtosis. Yeah, so we type in kurt, we select the data range, click enter, And what do we get? We get 2.43. So the coefficient of kurtosis is less than 3. So if it's less than 3, it means the tail is shorter. The tail is much more inward compared to the normal distribution. So roughly we can say that the data is much more concentrated nearer to the mean. So that is how we can interpret the data, okay, as in comparison to the mean, and talking about the skewness and kurtosis.